DRDO Chief Samir C. Kamath has gotten an extension of 1 year, and this comes after the formation of the overseeing committee led by him to review and ensure time-bound implementation of the Vijay Raghavan Committee. Vijay Raghavan Committee submitted its report on the DRDO overhaul in January this year. The recommendations of the committee range from structural overhaul to key focus areas for timely delivery of projects, including restructuring of 41 labs into 10 national labs to improve functional synergy and efficiency. Extension to DRDO chief will ensure accountability and continuity in the ongoing revamp process of the DRDO. We'll talk about this and, of course, a number of strides that the organization has made in the last few years. So, Group Captain V.N. Jha, former Joint Director of DRDO, Senior Scientist with us on the program. Wing Commander S. Sudhakaran, former Indian Air Force and Global Strategic Defense Expert, also with us on the program. Major General J.K. Bansal, Defense Expert, also joins us on the show. Last but by no means the least, Major Mohammad Ali Shah, Defense Expert, is also with us on the program. Group Captain Jha, I'll begin with you, sir. What do you make of this extension? This is obviously something to be looked at, with a nuanced perspective. If something like this is being constituted and even recommended in DRDO, which is a very structured, a very time-bound and a very disciplined organization, this goes on to show that there is perhaps a bubble that should not be burst. There is perhaps a pace and a consistency that should not be disrupted. And we have all seen what the DRDO capabilities have been in the last few years. India has become an exporter when it comes to defense equipment. India has become a catalyst too when it comes to devising as well as experimenting with a number of defense apparatus as well. What does this news mean to you, and how this is also indicative of the fact that when something is going good, it should not be disrupted?
Very good evening, Vineet. This is a question right now going through most of the minds. And actually, most of us, we were aware of this. This is bound to happen almost about a year and a half back. Look, the managerial, post, the top managerial post, what we'll call it, either Secretary DRDO or DG DRDO. This is a post of a scientist which has got the vast knowledge, vast experience of the R&D, but also doing the R&D in the focus area, what you mentioned in your opening address. And last but not the least, must be a good manager, having the overall knowledge of all systems. We have got 7 clusters lab in DRDO, and he should be aware of everything what is happening in the DRDO. And there are very few people having all these qualities. During the college days, we knew there could be a very decorated professor, but he may not be a good orator. Similarly, in the R&D also, there could be a very good research and development scientist, but he may not be a very good manager. And these are the things what usually we look into. Now we have got 7 DG DRDO of 7 clusters lab and the Secretary R&D. And now this time when Dr. Kamath, he should have been retiring. He comes from the naval system background. Today, the focus area of the country in the DRDO, Defense Research and Development, are essentially 3 or 4. One is the aeronautical, in which LCA and the allied systems are going on. Second is the missile system, in which tremendous leap has happened in the recent years. Third is the naval system. Today, India is thinking of the Atmanirbhar Bharat in the naval system, where the aircraft carrier has been made here in India with the systems, everything here, including of the startups which has been included. And last but not the least is the overall strategic importance of the electronics and some other system, combat vehicle included. These are the focus area right now, but the most focus area is the aeronautics, the missiles, and the naval systems. Now, among these 3, there has to be a person who has to be found out who can head the DRDO. And that is where right now, brainstorming is going on at the top most level. There are various people who are in those systems. but then they have to find a suitable person. Now, this is the time when the naval system has got a lot of things going on in the deep sea. Possibly, government of India didn't want those focus area to be disturbed. That is how he has been kept for another 1 year. During this time, DRDO and the government of India will try to find out another next capable person who can have an overall vision of the DRDO and select him or elect him out from there. So wish government of India all the best. But these are the time stop arrangements of giving extension of 1 year, 6 months, or something like that. It is just only the time gap arrangement that we keep, and it is required at given times. Most of us in the DRDO labs, we also have had an opportunity where we have been given extension at the time of superannuation because of some sensitive system developed by me or similar person has got the importance, is at the stage of the finalizations of the introduction. That is when we have to make this design, whether to give that extension to that scientist who is carrying out that particular project we need.
Right, absolutely. And General Bansal, there have been, in fact, talks about some internal resistance as well when it comes to the overall mechanism of the DRDO, which has been suggested as well as propounded by the PMO. What do you make of this extension? And, how is it instrumental to make the DRDO leaner and meaner, keeping in line with the defense expectations that the country has?
Definitely, when there is a performance by a particular individual on the top, the government keeps that in mind, and which has been kept in mind, and they give extension. This is not the only case now. When Dr. Kalam was there, his performance in DRDO and taking DRDO to heights, specifically the missile and nuclear field, he was given an extension, rather he was given a choice to serve as long as he wants to be in the DRDO. So he never retired from DRDO. He left, he just was shifted as a principal scientific advisor to government from DRDO. So resistance is definitely there because, when there are the people at lower level who expect a promotion and their cadre, so they feel that they are being sealed and some of them are going to retire. So like that, the resistance is always there. But the government and performance is to be kept in mind. And the present government is doing that. I have seen few years back, there was Dr. Natarajan, who was the chief of DRDO, and because of he was not able to perform properly, so he was removed at that time. Similarly, before that, Dr. Reddy was there. He was doing, Dr. Reddy, I think, is still there. So he has been doing. So government has to see what is going at the top level, who are performing. Keeping that in mind, it is being done, and resistance is not a very big thing. That can be taken care of, and everybody get the chance. And there is so much of freedom in DRDO. And let me tell you one thing very, very important, that it is not the administration only. A scientist in DRDO can show his capability by doing scientific research work and to produce something. This was done by Dr. Kalam. Dr. Kalam was offered scientific advisor long time in 1989 and 91, but at that time Dr. Arunachalam was a scientific advisor. Because I served on DRDO for 36 years, I know everything, side story. So he was in RCI Hyderabad, and he was working there as a scientist, and he never opted for to become a scientific advisor, secretary, or director general of research and development. These were the three posts held by one particular person at that point of time. So he never, but later on, once he was persuaded, he came and took over as scientific advisor. So there is no any such kind of resistance, and this is a good thing which the government has done.
Yeah. All right, Wing Commander Sudhakaran, where do you stand on this? And, this overhaul that we've been discussing that needs to, in fact, align with the expectations of the PMO when it comes to DRDO, how feasible and viable is it? And, the bigger, larger question is in that in changing times, even DRDO needs to adapt to the changing expectations and aspirations of the country, especially when it comes to Atmanirbharta.
See, while DRDO had some stars under its belt, but over a period of 70 years, if you look at an audit vis-a-vis what India required, probably it fell short of the expectations. That is precisely why we have committees, trying to overhaul. If everything was honky-dory, probably we wouldn't have needed. Things could have continued as it was, it would have delivered. There were structural changes that were required for the DRDO. Not only DRDO, there are many PSUs which require that kind of structural changes, because even talented people who join these organizations, they tend to get laid back in the 9 to 5 culture. And believe you me, innovation, invention, and next generation technology development cannot be done with that kind of a return or culture. That is where we need to, if India really hopes to become the third largest economic power and rub shoulders with the likes of China and US, we need to understand that we need to replicate DARPA here, because that's where technology is being churned out. And the fundamental difference between DARPA and DRDO is DARPA doesn't, get into the business of research, development, invention, innovation. Government cannot do that. The problem is government cannot pay, government cannot afford scientists of high quality, because they expect returns. They expect an environment which a government can never produce. It's one thing to say patriotism, nationalism, but what it takes for cutting edge research to produce great technology is you need to put in a lot of resource. You can't chain them with the bureaucratic hassles and the typical problems that are associated with any government decision-making processes and the endless procrastination. So if you need to get out of this, DRDO need to be more like a venture capitalist, who has deep pockets, venturing into the deep seas and the deep skies, looking for technologies, get whomever you want, focus on building technologies and delivering it for India. If that is the kind of structure that we are looking for, then we need a massive overhaul of what we have here. Because this kind of a thing is okay in a communist regime wherein everything is bullied and everything is state-owned, and then if half India is capital, then research and innovation-led organization need to be privatized, they need to be let a free hand, they cannot be held hostage to the political uncertainties or the incompetencies of the bureaucrats. It needs to be taken out of all these things. That's when India will unleash its true intellect. Believe you me, if your average age is 26 years, you have far more talent than that is there anywhere in the world. If you need to put that into good use, DRDO needs to be that mentor, that factory which can actually mentor and guide these talents, groom it, get the intellect, get that wisdom and knowledge, translate that into the next generation technology. So, these short-term measures of extensions, okay, because probably we are in a time of elections, decision-making may not be that much more conducive at this point of time to be able to take a decision this way or other way. But in the long run, in the coming 6 months or so, I expect the government to really shake up the organization and see how we make each and every PSUs and big giants, white elephants like the HAL and the DRDO to be far more accountable, far more frugal, far more lean and mean, and deliver cutting-edge technology for the country for the next generation.
Mohammad Ali Shah, you've interacted with the DRDO chief, Mr. Samir Kamath, on a number of occasions. What is the sense that you have ascertained in terms of, where is this trajectory going? It's been obviously pointed out by some of our panelists here as well. Wing Commander Sudhakaran also pointed out that if you want to be lean and mean, you want to get to that cutting edge. And if you're looking at China, there needs to be some overhaul.
Right, Vineet, absolutely. My interaction with Mr. Kamath, I found him to be a very, very balanced, very intelligent, very mature person, which I presume anyone of that stature at DRDO would be. Now, the very fact is DRDO, right from the start of when it was formed in 1958 and to the time it came into existence right from 1979 to 1970 to 1980, in fact. From that time onward, they've been doing fantastic work. If we could get a MiG-21 Bison from the world market, we thought, let's get it from our own DRDO itself. So similarly, now DRDO has got various projects. They got into, their first project was Project Indigo. It was in 1960, if I'm not mistaken. And thereafter went on to Project Devil, then Project Valiant, then that led to Prithvi Missiles, which we know as Prithvi Missiles now, the surface-to-air missile. So they have done a lot of great work. Now, when we see the extension of the chief by about a year, it obviously means they have been some projects in pipeline, which are a lot of good work, which are yet to be finished, which are yet to be completed. They say no one's indispensable. The famous saying that no one is indispensable, the work goes on. But the very fact that somebody gets an extension, which obviously goes to prove it, is only goes to show that that person, a lot of a particular project was dependent on the shoulders of that particular individual. As General Saab said some time back, that even if President APJ Abdul Kalam, when he was with DRDO, he got an extension. He never retired. In fact, he was told to stay on as much as he wanted. So when you find someone extremely brilliant, outstanding, exceptional at your work, the people on top often ask you to stay on, and if you can contribute a bit more, if you can contribute your services a bit more when you are when you're very, very alert, you are agile, you are functional. So I think the contribution of that could be utilized, Vineet. That's how I see it as.
Right. Stellar points, Ali. Group Captain Jha, what do you think is the next natural course of action for the DRDO? We are not saying that we emulate what China is doing. We're also not saying that, you overhaul it to such a shape and size that, you're not able to recognize, because the DRDO has been doing immensely gratifying things for the country, which have resulted not only in revenue, but it's also resulted in confidence, which has been missing when it comes to our own equipment being used by ourselves. How do you see these changes being implemented, and how should be the nature of these changes be introduced into the DRDO? You obviously do not want to thrive on shock value.
Well, Vineet, to be very frank, a lot of water has flown overhead of all the chiefs in the DRDO, starting from Mr. Kothari, I think 1948, afterwards, Bhagwantanam, Nag Chaudhary. First time MGK Menon came, and that is the time when the real R&D started in the infancy, still I'll say. Thereafter, Mr. Rajaramanna, when he was there, I think he was there in the times of late 70s, early 80s. That is the time when people started thinking of doing something, something which is a cutting-edge technology at those times. Subsequently, Mr. Arunachalam came, and Dr. Abdul Kalam. Dr. Abdul Kalam, when he came, he was the first one to have developed a system which is cutting-edge technology, the product of which was already with the user. That is the missile man. That is how he was known. And then thereafter, Mr. Atre came. He was the electronic system and electronic warfare person. He had put into his thing. Mr. Natarajan also, he came from CBRD with the combat vehicle things. Even he was of a value. But at that time, the army was not using any of the tank. Even the MBT that waited for donkey's years in trials, and still it could not go to the users. So those were the difficulties we had in the initially. But as you mentioned, the focus area, today the focus area are essentially 4 or 5. One is the LCA that we have got. This LCA is going to be, the great thing in the Indian arms of the Indian inventory. Second is the missile systems. So that is the strategical system, which is also going in a big way. All types of missiles have been developed today. Third is the naval system, what you had mentioned. So these are the 3 right now, which is in the focus of the Government of India, Ministry of Defense. Not to be little of it is the armament and the combat system. Of late, a lot of army systems, whether it is the tank with the 70-odd upgradations into the MBT. Then there are the howitzers, which has got fantastic amount of capability, augmented even beyond the original OEM. So all those things have come into the things. So all those things are there. But the person who will be chosen will possibly belong to aeronautical systems or the missile systems or the naval system. These are the three focus areas right now, out of which, in my understanding, the next secretary of the DRDO will be chosen from there. So there is a little bit of brainstorming going on. Who should be there? Are there the people who are having the overall idea, knowledge of say a view of where DRDO is heading into the next 5 to 10 years? Gone are the days when there used to be the DG DRDO for 9 years, 10 years. These days it is 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, 5 years. That sort of thing is happening today. But there's a reason for it. The technology is, it is going ahead with the leap and bounds. Everyone has to keep the pace of this. And then there's a requirement within armed forces today has technologies, those technologies which are advancing at a very rapid pace. So the next man who will be heading DRDO will be having some sort of overall the knowledge of it, view of it, and a very good managerial person who knows all the systems and who knows how to fit the technology with the person behind the machine and with the users also on his side. All three things are going to be there, and that is going to be a man, and that will take some time, maybe 6 months or 8 months of the screening of that person, man, and grooming him up to come to that chair. Vinay.
All right, we've almost run out of time. We'll take concluding thoughts from the remainder of our guests, starting with the General J.K. Bansal.
Yes. Can you repeat the question, please?
So, concluding thoughts from you on this important discussion that we have discussed.
Yes, concluding part from my side is that, the DRDO has to do two major things. One is that certain things which DRDO is not supposed to do should shadow. Say, for example, Defense Research Laboratory for food in Mysore, there are the certain mosquito repellent or something they are doing which should not be immediately removed. Secondly, they have to increase the perk and the pay for the talent to be attracted over there. It should not be that anybody who enters the scientist be over there with the usual knowledge or usual scientific background. It has to be, they must have some kind of, as has been told by I think Wing Commander, that they have to attract the good talent, and that will come only with pay perk at par with the civil. So then only the DRDO will proceed. And if, as said by Wing Commander Jha, Group Captain Jha, if there are the focus area of the missile, naval, aeronautics, then they must shadow the other things, because it took sometimes even for our Arjun tank, it took a lot of time. Already it was made. So there are the certain things, certain flaws are there, and the accountability is to be there. So in that case, maybe 50% of the work which is going on of not any direct use by the defense can be shadowed, and only the critical areas where we have got the strength is to be pursued further. That is what I will tell, because at a point of time there was the research for the biotechnology, also the medical research, which was, of course, it did not do much progress, but that is not the idea. I tell you one thing more, that I was in INMAS, Institute of Nuclear. I am a doctor, and INMAS is a laboratory which is doing medical work. At times, it was questioned why INMAS should be there, but now INMAS is doing very good thing, is they are developing the radio protectors. If there is any nuclear eventuality, such kind of things should go on. Otherwise, as a thyroid, they are shaping up for whatever is required to be done. There was a thyroid treatment which has been shadowed, and now the technology in the field of nuclear research, high altitude research, which is going on, that should be done. So this is
All right.
I feel it should go in the very, very needed basis. For
all right, sir. Wing Commander Sudhakan, concluding thoughts from you?
Yeah, to quickly sum up, if I have to say 60 to 70% of today's weapons inventory is foreign in nature. That was a compulsion of yesterday. But the problem is today's compulsion is we cannot continue with it. We are transiting into an AI era. The day that we cross that day, please be rest assured, this 60-70% of the inventory is going to be obsolete. This includes even your LCA Tejas and your Akash missile system, and maybe some one odd may survive. That is the reality of today. So if you're facing that reality, you need to gear up into an organizational chart or a mechanism which can actually gear up, deliver those level of technologies. We cannot treat exceptions as norm. There have been some, great guys who have led DRDO, or there have been some great guys in a lot of PSUs, but they cannot count for your average. They cannot count for your delivery because India will lag behind. If we really need to run the race as good as the Chinese does or the US does, we need to get some fundamental straight on. And for that, we need massive shakeups across old colonial organizations. That is when, we cannot rest on our past laurels, because tomorrow is going to demand far more greater technologies, far more intent, far more resources. If we are going to commit them, better be it in good hands.
Mohammad Ali Shah, quickly please.
Right, Preet, imagine the responsibility of DRDO with the 52 laboratories that are engaged in developing defense technologies. Now they are like aeronautics, armaments, electronics, land combat engineering, life sciences, materials, missiles, and naval systems. Now, DRDO is definitely the largest and the most largest research organization in the country, with over 5,000 scientists from the DRDS and 25,000 other subordinate scientists. Now, so obviously it's a large organization. So the very fact is, when you are dealing with such sensitive equipment, which are of national importance, of national security, in fact, the Wing Commander Sarkar just spoke about artificial intelligence. Well, I would like to just conclude on a humorous note by saying, there are two great challenges that the world is facing. One is artificial intelligence, and the second is natural stupidity. But secondly, natural stupidity is not applicable to Indians at all. So I would say that. So the very fact is, when DRDO has a huge responsibility on its shoulders, and most likely when the chief is leaving, so most certainly people would be concerned. The government would be concerned.
All right. Appreciate everyone who joined and shared their perspective on this important matter.
For more such videos, subscribe to the NewsX YouTube channel, hit the bell icon.